Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So let's continue here with our checkout system. And now, since we know everything is good, we can simply remove let me go to the home view here. We can simply remove the console.log that we are seeing on the handle result. I really need to learn to use the search instead of scrolling like this. Anyway, here I want to echo this result instead of this. So this here we know is our object, right? The data that we want. So here I'm just going to say, what do I call this? Because data is overused, but anyway, I'll just call it data for lack of a better word. So there we go. Data is equal to object text. Now keep in mind this is an array, right? So let's do a loop so that we can get the information we need from there and then save it. Okay, so we want to get one item at a time and save it in the sales department. Now keep in mind we have a sales table already created, which is right there. Sales, yes, and this is what we have. So these are the columns that we need. So I'm just going to copy these for a reminder and copy. Let's come here and I'm just going to put that as a comment. That way I know what I need. So I need the barcode, I need the receipt number, I need a description. Now the receipt number is the same for all these items here. So let's try receipt. Actually, let me just use that. Why not? So I'm going to copy and paste that. Receipt number is equal to. Now, with the receipt numbers, what you can do is read from the database, right? We can read from the database and find out the latest receipt number. Now for now, what we can do is just create a function called get receipt number, like so, right? And what we will do is create a function anywhere around here, really, it doesn't matter. Let me just put a function here. Or what we can do, since we have a functions file, we can just take that to the functions file. Let me go down here just so we can be a little bit more organized. So function, like so, and let's do that. So get receipt number. Now for now I don't want to bother with connecting to the database to check the number, blah blah blah. What I want to do instead is simply, but wait, how do we read from the database in this project? It's been a while, so I have literally forgotten how to do it. Okay, so let's use the database query like that. Okay, we're gonna do that. So what I'll do is go to functions. So maybe after all, let's just do it properly, shall we? So I'll start with number one. So I'm just going to say, we'll call it num for now, is equal to 1. Let's pretend this is the first record. So we'll say 1, that's the receipt number. But then we can do db is equal to new database. That way we can actually run some queries. And what I want to do is run a query where I read from cells. So say select, let's just say select, we'll run on the previous receipt number, right? So say select receipt number, because that's the only column I need from cells. And then I'll say order by ID descending limit 1, like so. Okay, so what I'm really saying is get me one record, but start from the end of the records. So this means I'll get the very last record from the cells table, and I'm only getting one column. So here I would just say row. Actually, this returns several rows, so I'll say if is array. So if there was a result of any kind from rows, then we're in business, right? So what we need to do now is get the first record. So I'm just going to say num is equal to the first record from rows 0, that's the first record, and then receipt number, because that's the column, the only column we have actually, and whatever number is in there, let's put a +1 right there. Okay, great. Now you may want to parse this as an integer, like so, and say int. Okay, actually this int should be in here. Wait, what am I doing here? What am I doing? Okay. Why do I need this bracketed tool? I don't actually need it per se. So this one is int to make sure that this is parsed as an int, just in case for whatever reason it's not an integer. And then we add 1 to it, and that's it. So this will only happen if we got a record of any kind. But if we don't get a record, then num will remain as 1, and then we can simply return num, like so. So this will always get the last record, find the receipt number, and increment it. Okay, very good. So let's go back to Ajax situation here. And what's going on? What's going on? Yes. So we've got our receipt number, which is great. And we need the rest of the stuff like barcode, description, amount, user ID. So I also need a user ID. So how exactly do we get our user ID? Now I really don't remember. So what I'll do is, because it's been a while on this project anyway. Let's see. When we are signing up, not when signing up. When creating a new product, we do actually add a user ID. So let me just steal that code from here. There we go. So that's how we do it. Yes. Copy that. And auth. Where is this auth from? This should be a function in functions. Let's see. Auth. Yes. There we go. Pretty cool. Okay, so right there, I'm going to do this. And this one is user ID. So I'll just do that. Now I want them to look nice and neat. So I'll tab them away like so. Okay, so we do have our user ID. We have our date. Oh, we need our date. So let's create a date. Today's date. So how do we create today's date? We use the date function and we create our format ymd his, and that's it. So that's our date time. And what else? So we have these two, so I can remove these two. Or maybe just leave them. Okay. And then we need the rest. We need quantity, we need amount. And what else? Okay, so for the rest of these, we need to read from the database. So let's go ahead. Read from database. So in order to read, because these are common to every record should have the same receipt number, every record should have the same user ID, every record should have the same date, but the rest of these will vary according to the item. So this is where we will do a for each loop for data. So data as key value. Now I don't need the keys because the keys are simply numbers, so useless. And here I will just say row because it is a row of data. And so I will need to read from the database as well. So let's create a new DB. new database. Doesn't matter if you capitalize or not, really. Okay, so there we go. We should always avoid creating an instance from within a loop, because these instances take quite an amount of memory. So if you put them inside a loop, you're going to run out of memory. So db is equal to new database. So let's read and say, okay, I've run out of words to use here. This is supposed to be raw, but I don't know what to call this. Check, I don't know. Let's say db query, and let's run that query. So we have an ID that we're trying to send through here. So what I'll do is I will say for each, and I will put an array like this and use the ID because I know I'm using the ID. And I'm going to say array ID is equal to the current row ID, like so. Okay. And I will put that array here just after the query. So query array, like that. Okay. I'll create the query here, of course, but let me just put a reminder there. And then once I have that query, if things went well, if it was found in the database, if is array check, then we're in business. If not, we're just going to ignore that. If is array blah blah blah, then we can save to database. Okay, and saving just goes exactly like this. So we'll save with an array, and of course, wait a minute, I should empty array before I start using it here. So let me do that. So I'll copy all of this, but wait a second, let's do select all the columns from products, right? Where ID is equal to ID, limit 1. Okay, so the ID will be provided here, and it's done. Okay, save to database, and let's create a query. So first of all, array is equal to an empty. Now let's add the required data. So remember that the data we got is inside check, right? So that's the data from the database for one item at a time. So what we need are these columns. So inside array, I will do this. Barcode. Like so. Now, also remember that check is a set of rows, not just one. So what we need to do right here is to say check is equal to check 0, so that we get just the first item. Otherwise, here would need to add 0 like this to refer to the first item. But now we only replaced the check with just one result. Okay, great. So barcode, what else? Receipt number, description, quantity, amount, total, date, user ID. So here, let's say user ID. So that user ID will be equal to this instead, because this is one of those common things. So let's put that here. Oopsie. I haven't copied, I guess. Oops, what did I do? Copy and paste here. Boom. What else? The date. So let's get the date. Let's put date here as well. From there. Okay. What next? Oof, I keep fighting with my mouse here. Receipt number, we need that. What have I done? Yeah, this is the wrong spelling for receipt. Okay, wait a second, where else have I used it? There's an E missing here, so back to structure. Let's rename one of these. So receipt, I'll say change, and then of course I will add an E, save. And it has lost its index, so let's drop this one. The index is down here, and let's add one that has that same name. Great. Okay, so back here, receipt number, and yeah, let's put receipt number here. Receipt number. What else do we need? So let's add the hard-hitting stuff. Description. Okay. Barcode description. Not quantity. Wait, do we have total here? Let me see. Browse. So we have amount and total, so that's fine. So which means amount we can get from the what we read from the database. And then what else? So we have the date, we have the receipt number, we have the barcode description. So what we're missing is quantity. So let's add quantity. Now we don't want to get the quantity from the database, so we'll get the quantity from this row right here. Okay, just like we got ID. Where do we get here? We don't need it to be here because it will be added to this. We need it to be here. So quantity here will come from row quantity. So put that there. This is the quantity that came from the checkout system. So let me put these together like so. Not really important, but just for the visual. Okay, so we have our quantity, we have amount. Let's look at the total now. So here is the total. Oops, let me change barcode to total. Now total is a calculation, so this one will depend on quantity and amount. So I'll copy this quantity here and then multiply by amount. So that check amount right there, copy and paste it there. Okay, so hopefully these this one is an integer, this one is a float. Okay, so then once we are done, let's create a an insert. Now the best way to insert this is to use a model, the sales model here. But since we don't have that for now, let's just use a query. Then we're going to shift to a model a bit later. So query is equal to, let's say, insert into sales, right? And then we have our columns, then we have our values. So in the columns here, this is exactly what I need. So I'm just going to copy all of this and put it here. And just put commas wherever there are these guys. So comma, and oopsie, what have I done? Comma and comma here as well. And then all I need to do is copy all of these guys and put them right over here. Repeat it, and then here I'll put a full colon. Select every comma, Control D once you select the first one, and then move one step forward, put a full colon like so. Alrighty then, and that's the query, and we add the data. So let's see if it works. If it doesn't, we'll figure it out. Okay, so back here, refresh. Let me close this. And so let's add a few items here. Okay, so let's do a checkout, and let's say somebody paid 60, and let's click next. Okay, great. We should have some records in here if everything went well, and we don't have records. Well, we have to debug, which is a lot of fun. So let's do that in the next video.